Hi, we're talking today with Susan Crawford, who is a visiting professor at Harvard's Kennedy School and Harvard Law School. And Susan and I were talking, and she mentioned work that she has been doing in Boston with young people and new forms of civic engagement and trying to use technology as a means of helping them solve problems. That sounds like digital media and learning to me. So why don't you tell us about this project, Susan?
Well, thanks, Howard. This is a very interesting initiative that I'm doing with Mike Hooper, a professor at the Graduate School of Design at Harvard, and his graduate students, along with my students at the Kennedy School and the Boston Mayor's Office of New Urban Mechanics, who are a terrific bunch of people who are working with us to find community partners. We have 3 community partners for the class, a local residents association in Roxbury, Massachusetts called the Orchard Gardens Residents Association. Also the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative, which has been studied for years as an interesting self-organized, self-governed neighborhood group in what had been a pretty bombed out area of Boston. And also the Upham's Corner Initiative, which is another neighborhood that has hit harder times. So what's happened here, the whole effort's called the Community Innovation Lab. And the Community Innovation Lab, these neighborhood partners come up with their own challenges, things they'd like to be doing better on. Things like, how do we encourage people in this neighborhood to stay active in city planning efforts that might affect their lives? Say a new transit link is being built in this neighborhood. Those planning sessions take forever if you're going to attend them in person, and often people whose lives are really changed by them don't pay attention. So that was one of the challenges. Another is, how do we get neighborhood youth to get more kids involved as leaders in the neighborhood? How do we get people more active in the residents association so they take ownership of their own surroundings? Really some pretty meat and potatoes governance and civic life problems. So the class is run as sort of a design project class. The students are assigned to one of these 9 projects, and they spend a lot of time talking to people in the neighborhood, trying to understand what the context is for their lives and how technology might or might not be a relevant tool for addressing the problems. And they take a very user-centered design approach to this process, sort of with an immersion context, and then iterating on prototypes that they show to people in the neighborhood. And we're coming up to a grand finale next Monday, actually, in the heart of the neighborhood. The students' projects will be demonstrated. And the really cool thing about this is that the Boston Mayor's Office will implement the solutions that make sense, and that we'll get funding for those things to be implemented, and then we'll evaluate whether these experiments actually help people's lives, and have some metrics about that, which then could be scaled if these projects are successful in any other part of the country. So in a nutshell, it's a collaboration between the university, the local government, in this case the mayor's office, and neighborhood organizations, non-government organizations, aimed at solving problems using technology and student energy.
Well, using technology how?
Well, for example, one reason that people don't get involved in the organization and energy of the residents association is because they don't see what's happening. They don't understand what the issues are that the residents association is working on. They don't feel that their vote counts if they do express themselves. And so you can use technology to show people in, let's say, the entrance hall of the neighborhood association, or at the moment when they hand in their rent check, to show people what issues are important to the residents association, have them indicate their preference right then and there as they pay their rent, and then show on the wall of the outside of the building what the neighborhood association has decided to do. A lot of that is just making things more visible with technology, and making and lowering the barriers to participation, and making things easier to understand, and also reflecting feedback loops quickly is something that technology can really help with.
So when you say show them, it sounds that to me sounds like video. So when you go in and pay your rent check, there's someone there with a laptop that's got a video to show you something. How exactly does that work?
Well, there are lots of different touch points for that particular project. When you hand in your rent check, you might have a choice between several options of directions the neighborhood organization could take, and you could use your rent check as a voting moment for where you want the interest and energy of the residents association to go. Then through SMS and other really low bandwidth communications, get news about what happened to that agenda and what's about to happen in the residents association. And then later, when a decision is made, that could be shown on the wall of the building or in a balloon, elevated above the community park. And then you could come back and say, well, I didn't like that, go the other direction. It doesn't have to be video. You actually have to reach people, I think, on many different levels of media. And some of them can be very low bandwidth, like SMS.
I think there's a myth that today's youth are resistant to civic engagement. How do the young people get involved? How did the project make it enticing for young people to participate?
Actually, I think this is the most engaged generation we're going to see for a long time. These kids don't want to leave anybody behind. They grew up doing co-working and using technology all the time in a kind of fluid, flowing set of intimate relationships that are made easier through technology. So for them, it's a natural extension of their energy and interest in technology to use that to make people's lives better. Also, I think the fact that it's hard to get a job these days for people graduated from college has made them more aware of the world around them. These are very place-based people. They're in Boston for school right now, and they're looking around and seeing that their lives are so much more fortunate than the people around them. So actually, the demand for this has been overwhelming. There are lots of people who want to be involved, both from the design side and from the policy side. And for both Professor Hooper and for me, something that's very exciting is to see those kinds of students working together. So design students thinking of themselves as policymakers and policymakers thinking of themselves as designers, all with a lot of knowledge about technology, is really, really exciting.
When we first started talking about this, I think you implied or you mentioned that this is something that could be rolled out in many, many places. Is there an overall name for this project or movement?
It's a good question. Everything needs naming is so important, Howard. As you know, we're calling this the Community Innovation Lab, and it could be replicated anywhere in America. And what we're doing is making it all visible online so that anybody could take the steps we took. This is a development that's happening at the same time as massively online course offerings. It's in a sense the opposite of that. This is a course offering that's an apprenticeship, a very much hands-on in the neighborhood effort. But like massively online courses, uses technology to reach people and address policy problems. So I'd say this could be replicated anywhere. It just takes a little bit of money and student energy, harnessing it in the right way and making them feel valued. And what really gives it juice is the implementation of the projects, that it's not just abstract thinking aloud about what might help in a neighborhood, but actually working hands-on with people who live nearby.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Susan, and good luck on rolling this out everywhere.
Oh, well, thank you, Howard. You're wonderful. I appreciate that. Thanks.